So this is day 95 of being housed, and goodness, today is Tuesday. I think it's November the 18th. There we go. Just gotta get my screen up. There we go. Just on my way to the gym. Then I gotta work, and then I have leading a Bible study tonight. So I actually haven't had time to work on the Planes and People Watching manuscript, nor have I had time to upload these videos. So I find I'm getting very busy very quick, and much like we talked about in the summer, and it was really easy to see when I had an influx of time or surplus of time, is busyness doesn't always equate to productivity. And much like my friend so wisely stated, and I remember where I was at. I'm not sure if you guys remember this video. This would have been, I believe it was during the week, or just the week pursuing me being unhoused, but or a couple weeks after me being unhoused, because I was, it's the first time I talked to my friend since I was unhoused, or sleeping in my vehicle. But he mentioned that, you know, one of the thoughts he came to is, a lot of times, or one of the biggest prohibitors from us seeing an opportunity before us is not because we didn't see the opportunity, or not because the opportunity wasn't presented, but because we were distracted by being busy. And when he spoke that, it resonated so deeply inside of me, and I was thinking, oh, that's so true. And it's a rather basic and simple and common thought that occurs commonly around us. I think about, like, when people date because they're codependent, so they don't, instead of spending that time figuring out and having like coming to themselves and, you know, becoming whole and complete, they latch on to one relationship, then another relationship, and each of them, they run their course, they go through, you know, like they're ensnared by lust, and then they feel like, oh, this is the best person since sliced bread. And then after several months, the reality kicks in, and they think, this is a terrible relationship, I'm trapped, I need out. And then they go into a state of desperation, and then they grab onto the next nearest relationship, and the next one, and the next one. The trend continues, and then all of a sudden, many years later, they realize they've always been somebody's boyfriend or somebody's girlfriend, and they realize how draining that pattern is, but how that pattern actually took them far away from themselves. But they never, or most people never, talk about the reality that perhaps the right person was there or near at the beginning, but because they were running away from themselves, like the other person, they were running into the arms of the wrong people, the wrong person. And then one of the worst things is your view on reality, your view on love, your view is smeared and marred, and then it taints your view on hope. And then you start to, once your view on hope is tainted, and you start to feel a disconnect from it, you start to slide into, you know, a pit of despair. And so this would be applicable for like a situation like that. They were busy in relationships, and that busyness caused them to miss the opportunities, you know, to start to investigate, you know, what do they desire? Like, what's their purpose in their life? What is a true friendship? What's the definition of a true friendship? Do your friends live up to that? Do you live up to that? More importantly, if you believe there's God and there's eternity, then why aren't you seeking that first above all things? It wouldn't even make any sense to do it any other way. So then you realize all these things are nothing more than distractions. So at the end, many people might say, I never had the opportunities you had. And what I think my friend, his words of wisdom and insight revealed is, opportunities were probably around people all along, but they were always focused on distractions and being busy, and so they missed them. I thought that was a very what's the word for it? Arcane, a very arcane glimpse into something that is ever present, rather common, but not commonly talked about. Anyway, so there's some things going on at work that are unpleasant. I think I can share a lot of valuable insight into the vulnerable population. And once again, when you're always going to be treated differently when you're at a entry-level position, an intermediate position, a senior level position, or you're at like the senior management level. You're always when you go through those rankings, you note that certain personalities will treat you differently, and they treat you in accordance to, virtually what you can do for them or what your position, reflects on you. Whereas there's other personalities that will always treat you the exact same way. Both of these treatments are revelatory of the way the person feels about themselves and the way they see the world around them. They don't have anything to do with you. And it's wise to note this. And this is why I often say, and I say it over and over again, that it's actually more beneficial to be at the bottom or of the totem pole or in the position of least privilege, because the people that actually really sincere, that seem really sincere and are very kind to you, it's because their hearts are very sincere and very kind. The people that are very insincere and their hearts seem very unkind, it's because their hearts are very insincere and unkind. One of the worst things to do is when you're at the top, or if you're the most popular, is to be around the world uses the term sycophants, or people that ingratiate themselves to you. People that ingratiate themselves to you, and they seem really nice, they seem really sincere, and then but you always feel very alone when you're around them. And then one day when you need them most and you have a fall from whatever position you're in, they turn and they quote unquote betray you. And I always think, I don't think they actually betrayed you. I think they always revealed who they were. I think the betrayal that you received was actually in your own imagination. You perceived somebody who wasn't meant to be trusted, and you trusted them because you've seen them the way they wanted you to see them, and you've seen them and you came into agreement with that. Sorry, for me, I can just put this on me. I seen them in the way that I want to see them, and I came into agreement with the way they wanted me to see them. So the issue is always just in my own self, in the way I perceive things around me, and whether my perception is in agreement with the actuality or if it's in misalignment with the actuality around me. So anyhow, what I want to share, and I'm just at the gym here, and time is now of the essence, but things are moving along good. They're moving along smoothly. There's been the abuse that occurred, I believe it's been a week now. It was literally last Tuesday, and that was with the owner's mother. So that continuance, or that pattern of behavior with her, with the yelling, oh my goodness, and just the cruelty and the cruel words that come from her mouth, that has evolved to threats. And she uttered 2 threats last week, and then so I just did my best to understand what she was angry about, and then I realized she's just venting. So I left. I talked to the owner about it, the owner of the house, and then I seen this the owner's mother later, like that morning, like shortly, like an hour after the event occurred, and then she said to me, she said, I'm sorry. And I looked at her and I said, you threatened me twice. And she just brushed it off, like, oh, I don't know why you take my words seriously. Like I just say things. And she didn't say that verbatim, but that's like the gist of it. And it was very, very unsettling. And so I haven't talked to her since. And so anyway, so it's a week later, and this morning when I was leaving to come here, like, it's still like a very hostile situation at that place. But the hostility has lessened. If this was like volume, we're say like several decibels. There's a decibels or decibels, one or the other, but several levels. on my side, because I find it seems like she's embarrassed now because she's verbally threatened me, and but on my side, which actually circles back to what I was just talking about, I always took her at her word. Is the moment she accosted me, in my heart, I knew that she not only hates me, but she thinks very lowly of me, in so much of, when somebody has that level of hate inside their heart, and then they that hate is capable of anything. When somebody's under the ruling of that emotion, they're capable of anything. So you can look at the degrees of what they could do, but the moment they look at you and they reveal to you that they see you as like subhuman, that means you are now a target to their capabilities. So I just took her at her word, and so this escalation or evolution of like her treatment towards me, it's a natural progression of the revelation of what actually occurs in her heart. That doesn't make it right, and I definitely need to get out of there. I definitely need safety, and this is wonderful to talk about abuse in these situations, because this is what I find many people out there, they want to help. They understand when somebody's in an abusive situation and there's harm being, like, whether the harm is just verbal and not yet physical, like, there's so many loving and caring people that they want to see people helped. They want to see them provided with the next step, just to be separated from the source of those attacks. And so I find like it's wise to and it's wonderful to have and it's a privilege to have the opportunity to share these things transparently, and once again, on behalf, as a voice for the voiceless, and to reveal the things that occur in the confines of darkness, and to bring them out into the light, so they're no longer obscured by darkness. And I think of like mold. Mold grows when it's kept in a warm, moist, dark place, because that's congruent in nurturing for mold to grow. And if you let mold grow, it'll grow and grow and grow. Then it turns into mold spores, and they get in the air. They're unperceivable with your sight, and they can get in your lungs, and then they can cause major damage, in so much as fatal damage. So anyway, so there's that. There's a few other things I want to talk about, but I got to get to the gym here. But overall though, I find I've been eating like just raw, like garlic, drinking beet juice, drinking or eating a lot of beets, hard-boiled eggs. My diet is getting healthier and healthier, and I'm staying with the routine of going to bed early, getting up early. And I had that conversation last week. I didn't share any of the details, but I said I was threatened twice. And I asked if he's ever had that happen to him. And he said, no, I've never had that happen to me, like, ever. He's like, I like, that's abnormal to me. That provides, just hearing the perspective of somebody who's grown up in a more healthy environment, just hearing that it's a different reality they live in. That's the reality I desire to be in. I desire to be in that reality. And it's already in my heart. I don't do this to others. And so that's where I desire to go and to be. And there's healing, and there's health that comes from that. I find if you're always around, toxic situations, it can seep into your mind frame where you are convinced and you believe, and then you speak with your mouth and with your words that this is the way it always is, and there's no variance to this. And then that can really stifle you and bring in like apathy or an apathetic mind frame where people just get comfortable in situations that other people would jump out of real quickly. And I guess I'll conclude with this metaphor that is well known, and it's wise to talk about this all the time, but the difference between a frog that's in a lukewarm pot, and then you turn the heat on and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, then the frog boils, versus the pot that's boiling to begin with, and you throw the frog in. The frog, as soon as it senses that temperature, it jumps out and it scrambles to get out of that pot. It's the same thing with like being surrounded all the time with abuse and being in a situation where you feel intimidated, you feel like you're in hostile territory, and you feel at any moment that person can yell at you for whatever reason. If they're having a bad day, they can just take it out on you because they don't see any reason to have to deal with what is occurring within them. There's no accountability on their side. Anyways, I'm gonna go to the gym, and I'll reveal, like, one of the things I do is when I just talked about this, I'm gonna go in the gym and I'm gonna pray and ask the Lord to cleanse my mind, so there's no anger, there's no bitter feelings. There isn't right now anyways, but hypothetically if there was, because so I can always be present to focus my energy on what I'm currently doing and presently doing, because otherwise those negative situations can follow you around and they can have like a corrosive nature that you know, wears away at you and wears you down, and then it makes it more and more difficult for that person to get out of the situation that they're in, because the opportunities that are presented, they're unable to properly optimize or utilize them and optimize their time and like those opportunities. Okay, I gotta go. God bless you.